Everyone, good evening to all of you. We're talking about the history of English literature, and in the segment history of English literature, we're dealing with one of the turbulent part of it, that is the Commonwealth period. In Commonwealth period, we have seen that how there is a clashes between the monarchy and the absolute kind of governance over there, that is parliamentarian system. As we move forward and see, we find that this clashes has has reached on the different level, and at the end we have seen that is in 1649 the execution of King Charles first. So from 1649 to from 1660, this was period where we can find that Puritan interregnum took place, and Oliver Cromwell became the Lord Protector, and he had played another important role as the wise person in his life. So, as a wise person, this expression I have used because we find that this was the period where a different uh, types of things happened, and these things had led a new kind of um, what we can say thought process, or the development of the situation here, and finally we had to see that what was the output of it, that is the restoration. So restoration took place in 1660, and then things, that is King Charles II, as he just come to the throne, we can see that how this person lead to the change. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss about it. In between, we had talked about the writers or the role of the literature, how it was impacted, the impact on the literature or the literary things, that was the another stuff. And as we move forward and try to find out the role of the John Milton. So in our last lecture, we had talked about most of the things of John Milton. Today we are going to discuss John Milton as whole, and specifically his major works. In that case, I would like to start with the Paradise Law. You can find some things over here. I didn't erase it because these are the other things which you people must have an idea. So when you talk about the Paradise Lost, uh, it was first published in 1667, but it was in only in 10 books. Okay, but later we can see there is the addition of two books, like in 1661 uh, we have this 11th one, and in 1662 he has written the 12th book, and these all books were uh, written, what we can say, collaboratively published in 1674. So Paradise Lost is an epic poem in blank verse, and in 12 books it comes to the picture in 1674. So as we talk about these books, it's considered by the scholars as one of the greatest poems of the English language, and it deals with the themes of disobedience as well as fall of man. So there is no need to discuss these things. Any student of literature, he or she must have an idea about the Paradise Lost, and we can see that their importance, their the word there means these books, Paradise Lost, important in the history of English literature is inevitable. We can't deny that even though this was a turbulent period, and this period had made a lot of changes in the society, but this is another thing which we all have an idea. So um, these are some, give me the minute, we will do, we'll come to this, but before that I would like to show you something else. Yeah, John Milton. So Milton was an English poet, polemist, man of letters, and civil servant for the Commonwealth of England under Oliver Cromwell. He is best known for his Paradise Law. See, 1667, written 1667, because his first 10 books were written there, and then 1674 written the next two books add, so totally 12 books in blank verse. He wrote in English, Latin, Greek, and Italian, and become internationally famous. Milton's first Latin elegy is Elegia Prima. Again, we had talked about his Areopagitica, 1644, is among history's most influential and impassioned defense of free speech and freedom of press. William Haley, in his 1796 biography, called him the greatest English author. Again, Dr. Samuel Johnson appreciated Paradise Lost, which we are talking about right now, as a poem which, with respect to design, many claim the first place, and with respect to performance, the second, among the productions of human mind. Among the production of human mind. Yeah, this thing I already have told you when we had talked about it. At Christ College, Cambridge, Milton was called as Lady of the Christ. In 1626, he wrote the first Latin elegy to Charles Diodati. Then he wrote another elegy, that Lycidas, on the death of his friend Edward King in the collection of the elegies, just in the Ardo King Naufrago. This is the comment by Dr. Samuel Johnson in his Life of the Most Eminent English Poets about John Milton. What he says, it's up, it appears in all his writings that he has the usual concomitant of great abilities, a lofty and steady confidence in himself, perhaps not without some contempt of others, for scarcely any man ever wrote so much and praised so few. A long kind of sentence, but still, it appears in all his writing that he has the usual concomitant of great abilities. So he has the mixture of all great abilities. a lofty and steady confidence in himself, perhaps not without some contempt of others, for scarcely any man ever wrote so much and praised so few. His two masks, Arcades and Comus, were both composed for noble patrons. Connection of the this family performance section that the Devo respectively. Then these all things we had already discussed, so I'm not going to talk about them. Yeah. So how many people were there who inspired by the Milton? This is the list and some of the criticism over him. The first thing, William Wordsworth began his sonnet London 1802 with Milton, thou should be living at this hour, and modeled his The Prelude, a blank verse epic on Paradise Lost. John Keats exclaimed that Miltonic verse cannot be written but in an artful or a rather artist humor. That is the another thing. Harold Bloom, in his The Anxiety of Influence, wrote that Milton is the central problem in any theory and history of poetic influence in English. Milton's Areopagitica is cited as the first amendment to the United States Constitution. Okay, Milton's Areopagitica is cited as the first amendment to the United States Constitution, and there is a quotation from Areopagitica that a good book is precious life food. Sorry, a good book is the precious lifeblood of a master spirit, embalmed and treasured up on purpose to a life beyond life. Dryden, John Dryden says that Milton was the poetic son of Spenser. Tennyson called Milton as the mighty mouth inventor of harmonies, good gifted organ, voice of England. Wordsworth said the sonnet in Milton's hand becomes a trumpet. His Mass Comus, written in 1634, is subtitled as a mass presented at Ludo Castle 1634 on Michaelmas night. Yeah, so basically, we'll talk about the Paradise Lost right now. It is an epic poem written in blank verse in 1667, revised in 1674. consists of 10 books. A second edition followed in 1674, which was arranged into 12 books on the reader's request and also to neatly match with Virgil's Aeneid, which was also written into 12 books. Book 7 and book 10 was split into two, thus total 12 books. So this is about his book's history. Milton's purpose to write this book, as per book 1, is to justify the way of God to man. Justify the way of God to man. In 1674 edition, Milton also added an introductory prose argument summarizing the plot of each book to prepare readers for the complex poetry that was to follow. So, in 1674 edition, Milton also added this introductory prose that called as argument, summarizing the plot of each book to prepare readers for the complex poetry that was to follow. So, he has taken efforts on his book, that is Paradise Lost, so that readers can understand it well, and he has done it as he just want to prepare his readers for complex poetry which they are going to follow or they are going to study with the John Milton. Paradise Lost. So, uh, as this is the kind of introductory notes, we must have an idea about this thing, that is in Paradise Lost, Saturn. We know that is one of the antagonist or one of the major character uh, in Paradise Lost. Saturn takes various shapes as comet or meteor. Sorry. Then this cherub, then cormorant, then toad, and serpent snake. Most of us have an idea about this serpent, then cherub, and meteor kind of uh, shape. Okay, but these are the other one. When we talk about uh, Paradise Lost, we know it is one of the epic poem, one of the famous one, which has come up with the great addition to the literature. But again, we can see that it was written in a different point of view also. So as we just go forward and try to find out this what Milton has done, he has given some hint of his motive behind written this book. So some of the critics, they have seen this thing, or they had talked about it. But as we just go and read these kind of things associated with these Milton's writings or the Paradise Lost specifically, uh, it is still feel relevant that whatever he thought behind writing this book, it was a kind of, what we can say, a kind of depiction, or he has advocated the Christian faith. So this is the thing we can find when we just go and read the John Milton's Paradise Lost. So when you talk about without literary perspective, when you talk about his works specifically John Milton's works, most of the people they talks about only two works of him. First one is of course we know Paradise Lost. Second one is Areopagitica, because Areopagitica advocates the freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of press. So that's why it's became very important one. Or the activist people, they feel this Areopagitica was one of the thing which considered to be uh, a book which gives them a new kind of thoughts, or the thing which gives them a immense kind of pleasure. I'm talking about the book that is Areopagitica. The same thing we can find over here. And as John Milton has seen this complexity of the Paradise Lost, he tried to make it simple again and again. So that's why in first time in 1667 it was written in 10 books. In 1674 it was expanded to the 12th book, two new books added by splitting the book 7 and book 10 of it, and he added a, what we can say, introductory note to this to reduce the complexity of this book. And his motive is very clear. We can find it clear in first book only, where he talks about that this book is written to justify the way of gods. Fine. Hope you're just getting my point. Any questions regarding this? Are you getting my points? Any questions, please let me know. Okay, because I know this is not me. Milton himself says that this is the complex kind of poetry. So see the complexity of it, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, so in the prologue we have Milton open his poem subject, that is humankind's first act of disobedience towards God. So humankind's first act of disobedience towards God. So this line tells us that the whole book surrounding, or it was based on the two important things. The first one, the humankind. Second one is the God. So on the one hand, we have Adam and Eve. On the other hand, we have God. On the one hand, we have good angels. Other hand, we have bad angels, Mephistopheles, then Lucifer, so and so forth. जर तुम्हाला इंटरेस्ट असेल ना वाचण्यामध्ये, तो मी तुम्हाला अगोदर पण बोललो होतो आणि आता परत सांगतो. जर तुम्हाला इंटरेस्ट असेल स्पेसिफिकली, कसं माहिती का, लोकल लिटरेचरकडे किंवा टीचिंगकडे का आवडतात, कारण की त्यांच्याकडे दुसरं शेवटचा काही ऑप्शन राहत नाही म्हणून, किंवा सगळे ऑप्शन संपल्यावर लोक टीचिंगकडे येतात. दॅट इज व्हेरी रॉंग. अकॉर्डिंग टू मी, टीचिंग शुड बी द फर्स्ट ॲक्शन और फर्स्ट प्लॅन. पार्ट प्लॅन बी टीचिंग नसावाच कधी, प्लॅन एच टीचिंग असावं. बट स्टील जेव्हा आपण हा विचार करतो ना की ॲज अ टीचर और ॲज अ फ्युचर प्रोफेसर, तुम्ही जेव्हा हा विचार कराल की नाही मला ह्या गोष्टीतल्या आहे ना, म्हणजे मला लिटरेचर मधल्या बऱ्याच गोष्टी प्रॉपरली माहीत असल्या पाहिजे. तर त्या केसमध्ये ना, जेव्हा आपण ह्या दृष्टीने विचार करू की मला हे फक्त वेळ नाही मारून न्यायची, पण मला ह्या गोष्टीतलं माहिती करून घ्यायचं आहे, त्यावेळेस आपण ह्या गोष्टी वाचायला, बघायला, त्याच्याबद्दल वाचायला, त्याच्याबद्दल मोर रिसर्च करायला शिकतो. म्हणून मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं होतं की जेव्हा जेव्हा किंवा म्हणजे आय डोंट नो हाऊ यू कम टू द इंग्लिश लिटरेचर, बट if you just want to be the part of the English literature, just go. If you want to understand English literature more in the deeper sense, these are the two books which I would like to suggest you. That is, you must have to read. First one, you must have to read Bible. Okay, Bible in the sense लिटररी पर्स्पेक्टिव्हने बायबल वाचलं गेलं पाहिजे, नॉट की रिलिजियस पर्स्पेक्टिव्हने, बिकॉज इट्स वन ऑफ द बेस्ट एक्झाम्पल ऑफ द लिटरेचर इन इंग्लिश. ओके, आता ते कसं घ्यायचं काय ते बघायचं ते तुम्ही ठरवा, पण ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी होतात. आणि दुसरं हे पॅराडाइज लॉस्ट जे बुक आहे ना ते, आता तुम्हाला हे दोनच का सांगितले, कारण most of the English literature before बिफोर 18th century, म्हणजे लाईक मी सगळंच नाही म्हणत पण मोस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड मी इथं वापरलाय. विलियम शेक्सपियर किंवा युनिव्हर्सिटी विट्स, नंतर परत मेटाफिजिकल पोएट्री, हां, कॅव्हिलियर्स, त्यानंतर परत जॉन मिल्टन, आता पुढे जो येईल जॉन ड्रायडन. ओके, जेव्हा जॉन ड्रायडन पासून रिस्टोरेशन झालं ना इंग्लंडमध्ये, त्यानंतर लिटरेचरचा थोडा मूड चेंज झाला, लाईक इट्स बिकेम अ बिट पॉलिटिकल. त्या केसमध्ये द फेमस वर्क बाय जॉन ड्रायडन, नाव विसरलो मी, इथपर्यंत येते असं की ठीक आहे, हां, पण हां तिथून ते थोडं पॉलिटिकल झालं, पण तिथपर्यंत मोस्ट ऑफ द लिटरेचर वॉज रिलिजियस काइंड ऑफ लिटरेचर. त्याच्यावर रिलिजनचा खूप मोठा पडदा होता. ठीक आहे, त्यामुळे ह्या गोष्टी आपल्याला खूप डीप मध्ये कळायला थोडा वेळ लागतो, पण ॲज अ टीचर यू मस्ट हॅव एन आयडिया अबाउट दिस थिंग. ओके, म्हणजे जेव्हा तुम्हाला याचं डीप अनालिसिस होईल किंवा तुम्हाला याच्याबद्दल थोडी डीप माहिती होईल ना, तेव्हा इंटरेस्ट अजून वाढत जाईल. ठीक आहे, सॉरी थोडे विषयांतर होते, पण हे इम्पॉर्टंट याच्याकरता आहे कारण की जॉन मिल्टन सारखे लोक स्वतःच्या पोएट्रीला कॉम्प्लेक्स पोएट्री म्हणतात, कॉम्प्लेक्स टू अंडरस्टँड. ओके, जेव्हा आपण कंपॅरेटिव्ह स्टडीज मध्ये ह्या गोष्टींचा विचार करतो किंवा ह्या गोष्टींचा अभ्यास करतो, त्यावेळेस आपल्याला कळतं की अरे हे इट्स समथिंग डिफरंट. ओके, आणि वी मस्ट टू स्टडी इट विथ द डिफरंट अँगल्स. ठीक आहे, आता त्या केसमध्ये जर का आपण हे घेतलं पॅराडाइज लॉस्ट घेतलं, तर त्यात आपल्याला उघड उघड हे दिसतंय की सॅटर्नने जो सॅटर्न होता त्याने गॉडच्या अगेन्स्ट हे केली, कॉन्स्पिरन्सी केली, किंवा कॉन्स्पिरन्सी म्हणण्यापेक्षा काय म्हणता येईल त्याला, उठाव म्हणा, बंड म्हणा. ते होत थोडं मराठीत बोलायला लागलं की इंग्लिश शब्द कमी आठवतात, सो प्लीज ट्राय टू अंडरस्टँड. सो इट्स अ रिवॉल्ट अगेन्स्ट दी गॉड, पण ते किती किती प्रॉपर शब्दामध्ये बसवलंय, पहिली गोष्ट. दुसरी गोष्ट, आता हे झालं नॉलेजच्या बेसनुसार. ओके, द सेकंड थिंग आय वुड लाईक टू टेल यू, जर तुम्ही टेक्निकल गोष्टींमध्ये थोडं इंटरेस्ट घेत असाल तर आता याचे जे टेक्निक्स आहेत, सी पॅराडाइज लॉस्ट एवढं सगळं हे, इट वॉज नॉट रिटन इन अ प्रोज, इट वॉज रिटन इन पोम. ओके, इट वॉज रिटन इन अ पोएट्री फॉर्म. सो बघा, म्हणजे ते पोएटिक करण्याकरता त्याला जे काही राईम्स जुळवावे लागले असतील किंवा जे काही रायमिंग स्कीम वापरावे लागले असेल, त्याला किती डोकं लावलं असेल या माणसात. दिस इज द अनदर थिंग. आता त्याच्या मागे पण वेगवेगळे अँगल्स आहेत, जसे की मराठीमध्ये म्हणलं की दिसा माझी काहीतरी लिहित जावे. आता त्याला पण आपला हात वळला पाहिजे, ते म्हणजे प्रत्येक दिवशी, आता हे पण म्हणतात की प्रत्येक दिवशी आपण थोडं थोडं काहीतरी लिहिलं गेलं पाहिजे, आपल्याकडनं काहीतरी लिहिलं गेलं पाहिजे. कारण आपली जी एज्युकेशन सिस्टम आहे, वेन वी टॉक अबाउट आवर एज्युकेशन सिस्टम इट सेल्फ, ओके, इट्स व्हॉट इट इज डुईंग, ती तुम्हाला कॉपी करायला लावते. म्हणजे आपल्या एज्युकेशन सिस्टम मधला एक सीन काय माहिती का, की धोका आणि ओका हा जो प्रकार आहे तो, तर क्रिएटिव्हिटी कुठे प्रकारच नाहीये. क्रिएटिव्हिटी कुठं प्रकारच नाही, की त्याला काही स्कोपच नाहीये. नाही, क्रिएटिव्हिटी आपल्याला डेव्हलप करावी लागेल. आणि ते हा खूपच मोठा विषय, मोठ्या विषयामध्ये हात घातलाय मी, पण मिल्टनने मला तो घालायला लावलाय. त्या केसमध्ये हा सीन होतोच, की तुमची क्रिएटिव्हिटी कुठं दिसते, तर रायटिंग्समध्ये. मग रायटिंग कुठे, तुम्हाला पोएट्री करायला वाटतं, पोएट्री लिहा. प्रोज लिहायला आवडतात, प्रोज लिहा. ठीक आहे, तुम्हाला पब्लिश नाही करायचं, स्वतः करता लिहा. पण तुमचा जे मेंटल लेवल आहे ते, किंवा मग जाऊ दे, मग मला सर आज एवढाच धडा शिकवायचा आहे, मग तेवढंच प्रिपरेशन करेन आणि जाईल. आणि हा नाही, असं नको. ते मागच्या प्रेरणा काय होत्या, मागच्या गोष्टी काय होत्या, म्हणून ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी रिलेटेड आहेत त्यांच्याशी. आता परत जॉन मिल्टनने हे सगळं काय लिहिलं, की मी ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी मला मराठीत सांगतोय, कारण की त्यापर्यंत चांगल्या पद्धतीने पोहोचल्या पाहिजे. आय डोंट नो वेदर तुम्ही ऐकताय का नाही, ते पण मला माहित नाही. तुम्ही किती ऐकणार आहे तुम्ही सांगितलेलं, हे पण तितकं मला माहित नाही. पण आय एम जस्ट ट्राईंग माय बेस्ट, बिकॉज आय वॉन्ट टू सेक्युअर द फ्युचर ऑफ महाराष्ट्र, फ्युचर ऑफ इंडिया. कारण ॲज अ टीचर आपल्याकडे ही खूप मोठी जबाबदारी आली. आता क्लासिक लिहिणारे किंवा जे आपण म्हणू की मास्टर लोक, आय डोंट नो की याच्या नंतरच्या पिढीमध्ये जन्माला येतील की नाही, किंवा आले तरी ते मास्टर बनतील की नाही, किंवा त्यांना ह्या लंबेरेस की घोड्यामध्येच त्यांना परत परत अडकवलं जायला डोकं. ह्या गोष्टीवर थोडा आपण एक केलं पाहिजे, की आपण मिल्टन बद्दल. बरं, हे मी तुम्हाला आत्ताच का सांगतो, कारण की मिल्टन हा माणसाचा एक मोटिव्ह होता माहितीये. वेन ही हॅज रिटन दिस पॅराडाइज लॉस्ट, ही वॉज टोटली ब्लाइंड. Okay, he was totally blind in 1669 when we can find this restoration was taking place. um, the sign of restoration was there. We can see that just starting losing his eyesight, and by 1670 he lose all of his eyesight. He totally blind. म्हणजे ब्लाइंड माणूस इतकं भारी काहीतरी लिहू शकतो तर आपण तर काही पण करू शकतो. ठीक आहे, तो डोस मला द्यायचा नाही, पण ठीक आहे. मिल्टनच्या थोडंच का, मिल्टनच्या थोडं मागे गेले ना, तर जॉन डन. ओके, ठीक आहे, जॉन डनला आपण तितकं हे नाही देऊ शकत आहे, पण स्टील पण युनिव्हर्सली नोन असं अगोदरची फिगर कुठली, ती विल्यम शेक्सपियर. ओके, पण विल्यम शेक्सपियर बद्दल बऱ्याच गोष्टी ठीक आहे, त्यांच्या काळामध्ये प्लेजरिझम वॉज लीगल. सो मग त्याने काय केलं, की याचा प्लॉट घे, त्याचा प्लॉट घे, किंवा त्यात थोडं टाक स्वतःचं, किंवा त्याने हिस्टॉरिकल गोष्टीवर पण खूप काय लिहिलं, किंवा अशा बऱ्याच बऱ्याच गोष्टी. पण जेव्हा आपण बोलतो की प्युअर, ओके, प्युअर सेल्फ इमॅजिनेशन, प्युअर सेल्फ थॉट that we find in the writing of John Milton. इतकं 12 बुक्स पुस्तक लिहिणं आणि ते इतके वर्ष फेमस राहणं, दिस इज नॉट ए जोक. Or it's even today we can find that it was getting studied in the different education institutes of the world. Hope you get my point. हा, सो पॅराडाईज लॉस्ट बद्दल आपण जेव्हा बोलतो, तेव्हा ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी आपल्यापर्यंत पोहोचल्या पाहिजे, किंवा आपल्याला समजलं पाहिजे, म्हणून ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी होतात. सो Milton's opens his poem subject, that is humankind's first act of disobedience towards God, that was happening over here. The act is Adam and Eve's eating forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge. This is the, what we can say. turning point of the book. The first book of the Bible is called Genesis. Milton asserts that the sin of Adam and Eve brought death to human beings for the first time, causing to lose our home in paradise until Jesus comes to restore humankind to its former position of purity. Okay, Baga, what I'm telling you. Milton asserts that the sin of Adam and Eve brought death to human beings for the first time, causing to lose our home in paradise until Jesus comes to restore humankind to its former position of purity. Milton's speaker announces that he wants to be inspired with this sacred knowledge because he wants to show his fellow man that the fall of humankind into sin and death was part of the God's greater plan, and that God's plan is justified. And thus prologue finishes. The prologue is nothing but the advocate or the clarification of Milton's motto behind writing this book. Yeah. So this is book-wise summary I have over here. We all have an idea about this one, but uh, I would like to tell you some things about it, and then we'll move till 12 book. I'll not the all, but the which very important for us. We'll talk about. The book first, immediately after the prologue, Milton raised the question of how Adam and Eve's disobedience occurred and explains that their actions were tempted by Satan. Satan and his followers are residing in hell. After defeated by God, he turns himself into a serpent. This happened in first book. Okay. In second in command of the hell is Beelzebub, who stands in a lake of fire that gives darkness instead of light. Satan does not repent on his rebellion against God, while Beelzebub now believes that God can't be overpowered. Then we have the entry of two devils. The two devils then decided to pervert God's good work to evil purposes. All the devils who were following Satan were angels, but they chose to follow Satan in his rebellion and turned into devils. God was allowing the devil's intentions because God wanted the evil to turn good at the end. Satan believes that it is better to be a king in hell rather servant in heaven. So Satan believes that it is better to be a king in hell rather servant in heaven. He also remarks that the mind can make its own hell out of heaven. So see, इथं परत we can see the changing position of the serpent's mind and how it goes on. Saturn appears like a comet or meteor, a fallen angel in the beginning. The devils dig into the bowels of ground unearthing gold and other minerals. Again, see this thing, okay? With their inhuman power, they construct a great temple in a short time called Pandemonium, which means the all the demons. All the demons make Pandemonium as their meeting place. Being spirits, they compact themselves and thousands of demons enter in the Pandemonium. And here we can find the end of the book first. Uh, in the book second, we have that Satan opens the debate in Pandemonium and claim that heaven is not yet lost. If they work together, they can rise stronger against the god in the next battle. So these people, they had taken, uh, they had occurred the battle against the god. Beelzebub says that the rumors have been circulating that new world is to be created by God with a race called man, whom God will favor more than angels. See, huh? See the story. I'm just telling you this story. The original book is written in the poetry form, but I'm telling you it is in the prose form right now because you must have an idea, bit idea of it. All the devils plan to destroy this new race, and Saturn volunteers himself to find out about this new world. Saturn flies off to find Hell's Gate and he sees 9 gates, three each of brass, iron, and uh, adamantine, and two strange shapes guarding them. Saturn chooses to confront them, that shapes, demanding passage through the gates. How? The shapes reveal that they are Saturn's own offsprings. Actually, they were sin and death who were guarding the hell. So again, see the sin and death, they both were guarding the hell. Now they are ready to open the hell's gate when they listen to the plan of Saturn. When Saturn enters the dark hell, he began to fall but was carried by a cloud of fire. There he meets Chaos, who tells the way to where Earth has recently been created. They make a bridge from hell to earth so that all evils can travel to tempt mortal. See the story, storyline खूप भारी याची आणि आपण बघू शकू की how it was artistically crafted. In book 3, you can find how the scene is heaven. Actually, the book 3 scene is in heaven, where God has been watching all of the events in hell with his son sitting at his hand. See, आता परत इथे एक वेगळी गोष्ट बघायला येते की the God has been watching all of the events in hell with his son sitting at his right hand. The God sees everything past, present, and future. God says that a suitable sacrifice must be made. Someone worthy must offer to die to pay for man's sin. Saturn lands on Earth in Mount Nifets, now in China. From the Earth, Saturn sees a high reaching structure in the distance, an enormous kingly gate in the sky with stairs leading all the way to Earth. So, see the imagination, huh? We can give full marks to John Milton for his great imagination. Saturn, when sees an angel like Uriel, he changes himself to a cherub, a low ranking angel. After talking with Uriel, Saturn flies off with dark intentions. This was happened in book 3. Later, as we move forward and see the book 4, which was in 645 lines, 645. Saturn lands to Mount Nifet just north of Paradise, the Garden of Eden. Uriel notices that Saturn is not a cherub from his facial expressions. Saturn now reached Garden of Eden, surrounded by the great thick wall. He sees there the tallest tree, tree of life, and next to it is forbidden tree of knowledge. And this is one of the main character in our story, that is the forbidden tree of knowledge. He sits on the tree of life that is highest in the garden in the shape of a this cormorant. Then Saturn notices two creatures erected among the other animals. They walk naked without shame and work pleasantly in the Garden of Eden. The erect creature are Adam and Eve. Fine, you can see or you can imagine the whole story in front of you. Adam tells Eve about God blessings and asks her not to eat the fruit of knowledge tree. Ask her not to eat the fruit of knowledge tree. Uriel comes to Archangel, that is Gabriel, at the gate of Eden and tells him about the shape of changing spirit. Gabriel sends search party into the garden. Two of his angels find Saturn disguised as toad, whispering the ear of Eve when she sleeps. Saturn is brought in front of Gabriel by the two angels, and Saturn prepares to fight him. So now we can find that they observed it. But still, he ready to fight. Their fight is stopped when they see a sign from heaven, the appearance in the sky of a pair of golden scales. Saturn recognized the sign, meaning as he could not win and flies off. Then comes the book 5. Here we can find uh, actually in book 4 we have find the his appearance of Adam and Eve, but in book 5 we can see his Eve's work specifically. Eve as a main character. Adam awakes with a peaceful sleep. Eve explained her dream, in which she hears a voice and follows it to the tree of knowledge. In heaven, God calls Archangel Raphael and ordered him to warn Adam and Eve. Raphael meets with Adam and Eve and explain the difference between heavenly food and earthly food. Again, see this. Raphael describes the things God created on earth. So we can find that how the things were going on, but uh, how good spirit tried to change the scenario, but he became unsuccessful in it. The highest substance is spirit, which God put into humankind. Yeah, wording below human are animals which have no spirit, followed by plants and uh, inanimate objects. Raphael says that man is the highest being on earth because his ability to reason and wants Adam to be obedient. Then Raphael explains further all hierarchies of angels were obedient to God. One day, Father announced about birth of Son. While God's announcement pleased most of the angels, but among them one was angry, so he lost his heavenly name and now called Saturn. Saturn erected his own throne in heaven and told his followers that they should not allow themselves to be unjustly ruled. One of the followers of Saturn disagreed, named Abdiel. Abdiel returned to God's side. That was again happen again. And then comes this book 6. God appointed Gabriel and Michael, the leaders of heaven's army. Then we have this battle begins between Saturn and God. God decides that there will be no fighting on the third day and said that war must now be end. Satan, including rebel angels, were driven out of the gate of heaven through a hole in heaven's ground. They fall for 9 days through chaos before landing in hell. Raphael warns Adam that Satan has begun a plot for the doom of mankind. And then Raphael explained to Adam that they must fear Satan and must not yield to his evil plot. So this is a kind of story which Raphael telling to Adam. In then book 7 we have in this book Milton asks Urania to ensure his safe transition from relating the story of war in heaven back to Raphael and Adam's conversation on earth. Adam then asks about his creation and creation of the new world, for which Raphael replies politely. Raphael replies that God decided to create earth and humans with the idea that earth and heaven will eventually be joined together as one kingdom to mankind's obedience to God's divine will. Then Raphael further said that God sent his son down into chaos to create earth. The earth was formed out of chaos and given light and dark, day and night in equal measure. The creation on earth took 6 days and Adam and Eve were created last. God gives Adam one command: he must not eat the fruit from the knowledge tree, which gives knowledge of good and evil. Son, after finishing his work of creation, hanged earth beneath heaven by a chain. See the imagination, huh? Pleased with the work of his son, God take rest on the seventh day, which then become known as Sabbath, and that is the concept of Sunday. So this is the craftsmanship of John Milton. We can find over here that he book by book he just crafting it in a different sense, and we can study. We can see his craftsmanship through this one, and we know that is it was written in story form, so it is pleased to listen. And this is how the story goes on. We'll come to the next book, which will give you the next insights of the story. So in book 8 we have, after this Raphael finished the story of creation, Adam asked him about the motion of the stars, sun and planets. Then Eve leaves them alone so that she can hear the same conversation from Adam afterwards. Raphael mentioned that it does not matter whether the earth moves or the sun moves around the earth. He warns Adam that he should be satisfied with the knowledge that God has made available and to resist the urge to gain further understanding outside of the limit he has set. After Raphael finishes, Adam tells him about his own creation. He explains that he desired to have a companion more like him with whom he can share his thoughts. So God created Eve from a rib in Adam's side while he slept. Adam instantly fell in love with Eve. This was the stuff here we can find after the Raphael's explanation. Raphael says that while Eve is more beautiful from outside, she is less worthy than Adam from inside. He her spirituality is weaker than Adam. Her intellect is slightly less developed, and her vanity is a serious weakness. Okay, see, again he's just talking about the qualities. Raphael again reiterate um, Adam to avoid temptations from Satan. Afterwards, Raphael returns to heaven and Adam goes for a sleep. And then book 9, which was considered the longest book, we have come to the picture. The actual disobedience of Adam and Eve take place in this book, that is book 9. Milton asserts that the fall of humankind is more heroic than the tales of Virgil and Homer. Saturn returned after 8 days when he caught and banished by Gabriel. Saturn feels jealous to see the beauty of Earth that is even more beautiful than heaven. Saturn enters in the body of a snake and becomes a serpent. The next morning, because of much work to do, Adam and Eve decide to work separately. Saturn speaks in man's voice to Eve, who surprises to see such creature. He asks the serpent about how he can speak, and he tells that it is all the magic of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And here we can see the main point, that is, Eve is convinced and eat the forbidden apple. Adam now thinks that Eve alone will be punished by God now. So he eats the apple too because he loved Eve so much. And then comes this 10. The uh, scene is heaven where the scene is seen by in a heaven where God knows about the guilt of Adam and Eve, and he sent his son to earth to pass judgment on the couple. In paradise, son calls Adams with along with Eve. They are embarrassed by their nakedness. The son condemned the serpent for his evil act and ordered that all snakes will now have to crawl on their bellies and they can never be upright again. Son also declares that Adam and Eve's children will strike the serpent's head while serpents will bite humans forever. Now, Son gives the punishment to couples. Eve and all women to follow will give birth in pain and must submit to their husband. In the craftsmanship, now Son gives the punishment to couples. Even all women to follow will give birth in pain and must submit to their husband. Adam and all men after him will have to labor to hunt and harvest food in cursed ground. Son returns to heaven. This will happen over there. in hell, sin and death remain at the gate of hell where Satan left them. Sensing Saturn has succeeded, they finish the linking bridge from hell to earth and travel towards hell, travel towards earth to meet him. At the edge of paradise, sin and death meet Saturn. They congratulate him and promise him that they will infect the earth. Who? Sin and death. Death will corrupt all living things, causing them to die, and sin will corrupt thoughts and deeds of humankind. This is the kind of contract in between them. Saturn returns to hell and speaks about his triumph for from pandemonium. All devils along with Saturn are transformed to snakes as sons. First, a grove of trees appeared in hell, and when the snake tried to bite it, it turns to ashes. Sin and death began their work on earth. The God tells the angels that he will allow sin and death to stay on earth until judgment day. After that, they must return to hell and will be locked forever along with Satan and other devils. That is the another stuff. God calls the angels to alter the universe. They tilt the earth axis or alter the path of sun. Then now humankind will have to endure extreme hot and cold seasons. On the earth there was a fight between animals, and to see that Adam reproaches himself and insult Eve's female nature. So the kind of story. Eve urges Adam not to leave her and say that until and love can save them in a fallen world. They decided to obey God's order and confess their sin and ask for forgiveness. And then come the book 11. God hears the prayers of Adam and Eve and asks his son to act as an advocate for humankind. The father then calls all the angels together and tells about his plan. He commands Michael to go down to earth and escort out Adam and Eve out of paradise, because now they can't live in a pure place because they are impure now. But after that death, they can be reunited with God. See the conception, okay? Adam reassures Eve that she will be able to take revenge on Satan by being the mother of humankind. See this. Michelle arrives and asks Adam and Eve to leave the paradise. They are shocked and saddened to know this, but Michelle comforts them, saying that all of the earth has been given to them under the eye of the Father. Then Michael takes Adam to a high hill to show him vision of humankind's future while he puts Eve to sleep. From the high hill, he sees the entire hemisphere of the earth. Adam sees two men offering sacrifice and watches one of them kill the other. Michelle explains that those men are Cain and Abel, the first son of Adam and Eve. Adam is shocked and dismayed at his first vision of death. The angel shows him the other ways that will take lives of men, that is disease, war, and old age. Adam asks about any alternative to death. Michelle advises him to obey. The living a virtuous life can allow people to live long and fruitful lives till heaven permits. Next vision appears of men and women enjoying dances, games, and amorous courting. Adam assumes that vision is good, but Raphael informs him that they are atheists who live for pleasure, not for God. The next vision is about great armies slaughtering men by thousands and plundering cities. The next vision is about the single man preaching to others, but he is ignored. He goes off to mountains and constructs a giant boat, filling it with all the animals to the earth and his family. A great flood then comes, wiping out all living things except those on the boat. The good man who built the boat is Noah. Michelle tells that how God was uh, angered by humankind's sinful ways and decided to clean the earth. The God found one virtuous man and preserves humankind through him. At the end of the flood, Adam sees a rainbow appears and God promise that he will never destroy the earth again by flood. Adam feels reassured by this story and it promises that virtue and obedience to God will continue on earth through Noah. And then comes our last book, that is Michelle continues relating the story of the future of humankind to Adam. After the flood, human now acts obediently to God than before flood. After several generations later, a leader arrives with proud and ungodly ambition. This man is Nimrod, a tyrant who forced many men under his rule. He constructed the Tower of Babel to reach to heaven. As a result, God gives punishment that men will speak different languages and will not be able to understand each other. Continuing his story, Michel explained that God chooses Israel as the one nation to rise above the rest. He takes one person, Abraham, father of Israelites, from the race that worship idols. At God's command, Abraham sets off from his native land and travels to Canaan, the promised land. A man named Moses is born and he eventually lead the people out of Egypt. So this is the story. After listening all these future stories, Adam is relieved that God will bless a portion of humankind after having it cursed for so long. Mishael says that Israel, after many different rulers, a king named David will appear, and from his descendants will eventually come a Messiah named as Jesus or Son, who will bring together heaven and earth once again. However, he will have to suffer a lot. He will be punished to death, but his resurrection will fulfill the prophecy of Son. Adam worries that the followers of the Jesus will be prosecuted. Michelle replies that definitely they will be prosecuted, but Messiah will send down Holy Spirit to provide spiritual protection. The world will continue to accommodate evil and make it difficult for individuals to do good deeds. Adam is comforted and they prepare to leave paradise. He became he comes down from the mountain. Eve awakes and say that she had educating dreams. Adam and Eve turn away from paradise hand in hand with Michael, and then we can find the end of with it. So Dr. Samuel Johnson praised Paradise Lost, a poem which, with respect to design, many claim the first place, and with respect to performance, the second among the production of the human mind. As I told you, Milton's politics as those of the acrimonious and surely republican. So, in Paradise Lost, we can see or we can find that here it is described that Saturn had fulfilled his dream, and instead of God, Saturn is pretend to be the hero. And as this kind of criticism come into the picture, John Milton has written another book, that is Paradise Regained, but that was not that much famous. Still, Paradise Regained is a poem by John Milton, but first published in 1677 by John Mycock. The volume which contained it also contained Samson Agonis, a tragic closet drama. It is a sequel of Paradise Lost written in blank verse. It is published in 4 books. This is the next part of the Paradise Lost. He writes to Jesus in book first. He writes to Jesus. It was written in 4 books. Book first, Milton declares his intention to write of Jesus. The book opens with the baptism of Jesus by John. Saturn and all the fallen angels meet to discuss what to do, and Saturn proposes to try temptation and all guilt. After the baptism, Jesus feels the Holy Spirit leading him, and after a brief recitation of his life, wanders into the deserts. So this was goes 40 days passes, during which he neither eats nor feels the need. Finally, Jesus encounters an old man, Satan actually disguised as an old man, gathering sticks. He suggests that if he is the Son of God, he should miraculously change the stone into bread so that he can eat. Jesus reveals the identity of Satan, and he also admits Jesus curses Satan for his evil act. This happened in book first, and the story goes on book 3 and book 4. And we can find that he just tried to change this story, or try to change the importance of uh, John Milton's Paradise Lost, as it was getting a bit criticism, but we don't find that he is became successful in it. So as we move forward, we can see that these all things happen and has made impact on the literature. It has made John Milton one of the famous person, and with this uh, we had the end with this Commonwealth period. So hope you just got this point. As I told you, this all we had just read the whole summary of the 12 book of the Paradise Lost, and how it's considered the masterpiece. So summary reading is a different thing, and actual reading of the actual work is the different one. So as we go forward, we can see these all stops. With this, we had done with these Commonwealth period. So in our next lecture, we'll deal with the will deal with the restoration period, which happened in 1660. First of all, we'll talk about the historical background
to the restoration age and then move towards the literature of it. Thank you for your consideration.